All right, Jake Adams here from Reef Builders in Bali with my good friend Vincent. Thanks for joining me, Vincent.
Cheers.
We just got back from a pretty epic expedition to the Flores Sea around Komodos and Rinca Island, and saw a lot of really cool stuff. And just want to take this opportunity to let people know what Vincent Chalias is all about. So, how did you get involved with marine life and reef life? And
Well, I wanted to work in the aquarium industry for a long, long time. Then I started working in a wholesaler in France. Then I went to Kenya, which I spent a year in Kenya working as an exporter of live fish. Then came back to France, worked in a wholesaler. Then since '97 I worked for Amblar, which is a major importer in Europe. And I landed in Indonesia in '98. And yeah, I've been here since then.
so you're from France,
Yeah.
and you've been in Bali for 17 years, give or take.
Almost 16 years. Since
So
98.
so what brought you here, and what kept you here?
So as I worked for Amblar, I was sent here to do quality control, so which I did. Then straight away I was interested in trying to capture corals, and we found some solutions. We found ideas of different part of the world, and then we started capturing corals in '99, 2000.
So your background was in aquaculture, right?
Yeah.
There was no curriculum for coral culture back then, right?
Not at all.
So what is it about corals that appealed to you?
What is it? I mean, it was completely new when I arrived in Bali. You know, what mainly my job was mainly fish, and then I got into corals, and I just loved it. So I could see there was a great potential in Bali, not to capture corals. There was you can find all the different habitats all around Bali. In the south, you have many different habitats around the islands. You know, so you have the potential to grow almost all the species you can find in the Indo-Pacific.
So Bali was just a good center.
It's not too big, so all the habitats are not too far away from everywhere, and you have an international airport, so it has a great potential for capturing corals.
When you got started, that there was no coral culture. So how do you start farming corals out in the ocean with nothing to really go from, nothing to go off of? I mean, there was a little bit going on in other places, but not in Indonesia.
Yeah. Well, the first is to find the correct sites. That was, I mean.
The sites, the farming sites.
Yeah, because all the sites you find in the south of Bali, there is big swells, and the access is not too easy, you know. So it's only when I went up north, you know, that I tried to discover the potential. You know, there was some days which were pretty calm, and we could start to work with, you know. So we came up with so many ideas. We used to make concrete racks. We tried PVC racks. We tried many different possibilities before we found the right ways, you know. And we still innovate and discover new and new ways. Our basic is still steel frame racks.
There's a big difference between a place that's good for corals and a place that's good for coral farming, because people have to get into those environments too. I've dove a couple of your sites. Some of them are chill. Some of them are actually very challenging to access.
Yeah.
Even though all your racks are out there.
So at the beginning, we went to sites which was easy access for us. You know, that's what we went. And then slowly, we found out that actually the sites which are challenging, you know, are much better for the corals.
Yeah.
So first we prioritized our feelings, you know, and then after, when we get used to it, we start to prioritize on the corals. So we went into places which much more current, with less algae growing, and easier maintenance, but much more challenging to work on.
Wow. So you currently, the coral farm that you work with is Bali Aquarium.
Yeah.
Tell me about that enterprise and how we got it started and what it's all about.
Well, it's all about actually the owner of this company was working for the fisheries department before, you know.
The fisheries department?
Yeah, when I came in Bali and I started to explain our suppliers of coral, you know, what I wanted to do, you know, that they were not up for it, so they declined. So this guy, Mr. Mano, he was working for the fisheries department. I went to see him. I suggested my ideas to him, and then he said, well, great, So what happened is he introduced me to some fishermen in Nusa Dua in the south of Bali, where he used to work with. And we put up the first racks over there. And then 6 months later, our supplier of coral, saw the result, and then he started also.
So when I kind of was a young lad starting to get into professional aquariums or professional aquarium stores and things like that, that's right about the time that Corals of the World came out. And I'll never forget seeing a ton of what we call the deep water smooth-skinned acros. And there was a few really standout species like Acropora suharsonoi, Acropora efflorescens, and several others. And I remember seeing on the map, it was just like, right here on this map, it was just like one dot on the range distribution of the book, saying where they came from. And at the time, there was no coral exports from there. And I was just like, oh, I will never see that coral in my lifetime. As a young kid, I just set myself up not to be disappointed. Yeah. And over time, every single species became available. And you had a lot to do with that, right?
Well, yeah, this is...
the culture of efflorescens.
Yeah, we try to produce as many, efflorescens, we tried to collect efflorescens in 99 or 2000. And as soon as we could collect them, we tried to culture them, because the site where we first made our trials, was just inside the lagoon, and we were collecting the efflorescens just outside. So that's a little story for efflorescens, And it's a very challenging species to collect. And suharsonoi has always been popular, and always been on demand, and it's a coral which is pretty, you can find pretty easily on them.
One of the stories that I love telling people about what you do is that you're not chop shopping, you're not frag and pack, you are collecting a little bit of broodstock and growing your broodstock, and then you take your frags and grow from that. Tell us the story about the Acropora robusta, because that's my favorite.
So yeah, this Acropora robusta actually is the mother colony of all the Acropora robusta which are actually cultivated in Bali come from one single colony.
And Acropora robusta is a thick-branched staghorn that grows horizontally.
Yeah,
and we're talking specifically about the pink-tip green.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it comes from only one single mother colony, the only one that I've ever met in Bali, which I found in Candidasa, in the east coast of Bali, inside the lagoon. And we probably collected 3 or 4 big bunches, about 1 foot long. And then now that we have so many racks of broodstock, we have, probably that the broodstock that we have right now, is 10 times bigger than the mother colony.
I dove the site Serangoon yesterday, and I dove it a year ago. And a year ago, I was impressed with how much standing crop you had of this coral. And then yesterday, or 2 days ago, I saw it again. And it's incredible to think that left alone, your racks will become reefs on their own.
Yeah.
Yes, you have so much just of robusta. That's not even talking about the other corals.
The thing is, after we already made the experiment, when you leave the rack alone, the corals tend to grow until the racks get too corroded, collapses, and then after basically it sinks into the sand,
Okay.
So it doesn't become a coral reef, except there is rock bottom. But yeah, it can become pretty thick, encrusted with corals, and we have to, every few years, to break everything again, and start all over again, otherwise it's just become a single piece of coral.
So coral culture is really high maintenance.
It is.
It's very hands-on.
It is high maintenance, so that's why, everything we think is we try to make it as maintenance-free as possible. Because this is what is expensive,
That's very relative.
After, for Acropora it's still okay, because it's only 4 to 6 months, growing time, so it's still okay. You still have to maintain the broodstock every 2-3 years. You break the rack down, and then you start all over again, But for LPS, which grow 2, 3, 4 years, then the maintenance is very high. So algae, oyster, the extra sponges, acidians are enemies.
Yeah. So part of your scouting around for broodstock and new coral strains and species involves a lot of diving.
Yeah.
And you've racked up somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,000 dives. How has your diving and your interests changed over that time?
I mean, first of all, I mean, when I came here, you know, the first dive site I went to is where they bring the tourists down. So they like to. Bali is famous for mola mola, for mantas, for drift dives, and can dives. So I started with only current dive, and then after I start collecting efflorescens also in drift dives, and then after I start to do aquarium photography. Turns to different sites, you know, not diving into currents, but diving into
color waters,
clear waters. Not clear. I like the dirty water, the turbid water, because it's where you get the most surprise. You know, actually, you know, I mean, nobody wants to go and dive in turbid water.
No, they don't.
But so that's why it's where you're gonna find something interesting. You know, it's where you're gonna find something that nobody ever found.
Right.
So, I mean, for me, you know, my favorite dive sites is going to be turbid water, turbid calm water.
Turbid calm water.
Yeah. And we saw it in Flores. We saw some sites which were completely covered, you know, in very dirty water with only
silt everywhere.
Silt everywhere.
No dive operator would ever take dive people there.
But there was plenty of corals.
Yeah,
we found some new species, something different.
So before we get to the Flores expedition, what is your favorite coral? And what is your favorite fish? I gotta ask every aquarist that does the interview.
So my favorite coral would be Acropora digitifera, because for me it's the most colorful one.
Most colorful? But
it's also the most challenging one. Not many people can keep it colorful.
Even when people do like manage to keep it in aquariums and grow it, its color tips. You know, it never looks like it does in the ocean.
But in the ocean you can see it from 50 meters away. You know, it's so bright that you can see it from far away. But as soon as you move it, you collect it, the color changes very fast. It's a very stress-sensitive color.
Right. You've told me that you can grow it on the racks, and it's beautiful. And just by the time you get it to the beach, it's already stressed and losing color.
It's gonna. I mean, it's losing color very, very fast. Just you bring it to the surface, already change color.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a challenging color. After for the fish, my favorite fish is I always love pygmy gobies. You know, I always love so. And
pygmy gobies are dope.
Yeah, and my favorite pygmy goby is Brianinops natans.
Brianinops natans for the English speakers.
Which is, they call it matangu, you know, they call it purple ice here in Indonesia. So
it's a cool little fish, and it's the mascot logo by the aquarium, right?
Yeah, it lives in colonies in Acropora. So
it just hovers right above them, makes little clouds.
So, I mean, there is nothing more beautiful than Locani Acropora with so many Brianinops inside, you know, just above it, you know, that's so nice.
Very cool.
It's nice.
Have you kept those guys in captivity? How do they fare?
Yeah, they fare very well. I mean, their life expectancy is not that long, you know.
Because they're tiny little gobies.
Yeah, they're short-lived. But we keep them without any problem. It's pygmy gobies are very easy to keep fish, you know. They never get sick. They feed very easily on Artemia.
I'm guessing you probably wouldn't even have to feed him anything special if you fed him just coral food. It's probably good enough,
they
small
eat
enough.
Pellets, they eat everything, you know, as soon as it's the correct size.
With Neptune Systems' new cloud-based control, Apex Fusion, you can control products from Ecotech Marine and their Radion LED with an ease never been seen before. Right from the dashboard, you get a graphical user interface that allows you to adjust the time, the intensity, and the lighting mode of your Radion LEDs. You can even use it on a mobile device, and you can add clouds and lightning. Also, it controls the Vortec pumps. Right from the dashboard again, you get a graphical interface that's very familiar, allows you to change the intensity, the time, and even the mode that the Vortec pump is in. And if you want to compare that to another pump, or even to the Radion LED, that can be done with these as well. All of this is with the Apex, Apex Fusion, and the WXM module from Neptune Systems.
So the reason I'm here is because last year I was also here, and that's when I remember you proposing, you know, what if we did an aquarium-centric expedition?
Yeah.
How do you remember it?
Yeah, it was just a suggestion, you know, it was just an idea, a dream.
Yeah.
And you made it come true.
So you proposed the idea last year, and so what was your inspiration for doing this kind of thing? Because it's not just about having a good time. I mean, it's great, but there was some inspiration and some goals.
Well, I mean, Indonesia is a huge country, and I know for a fact that the diversity of habitat and coral that you can find around, you know, is huge. And actually, very few people go around and investigate and explore, you know, what you can find. And so I know even in the places.
Sweep this way.
Even
You're starting to get off frame.
Okay. Even in the places where many people go diving, there is still, I mean, huge possibility to find new species. You know, I mean, we were very close to few of the most famous diving sites in Indonesia, right. and we found a new species. Right.
That goes back to the habitats that you love, the biotopes. It goes back to diving turbid environments. But yeah, the reason we came up with Flores is because it was close but yet underexplored, accessible but still sort of, you know, I mean, far away.
In this part of the world, people, they go diving, they want to see fish.
They want to see big fish.
They want to see big fish. They want to see plenty of fish.
Mantas, sharks.
Okay, and this is a very small part of all the diving sites you can find. And in an area like Komodo National Park, there is only a very small percentage which is currently dived, and there is plenty of other sites which are unexplored.
Yeah.
And there is so many different habitats there that for sure there is still much more species to be found. You know, I mean, just a year ago they found a new species of fisheras there.
Yeah.
We saw it.
Parachylinus renier.
Yeah, we saw it underwater, and this is right in the middle of the park. So I guess if we would go a little bit in the outskirts of the park, you know, we would find plenty.
That was actually really exciting to write about new species of flasher grass that was described a year ago, and then to go just around the park and saw them. Just like, oh, there's, like, look, he's got no filaments on his fins. It's the new species. That was really cool.
Nice.
So what made you think we could pull it off? Because I think we pulled it off. You know, nobody got hurt. We had a good time. Took tons of photos. Triton Reef came along and did a lot of water samples.
Well, I mean, I didn't know what to expect. You know, I mean, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if we could pull this off or not. You know, so I know there was plenty of boat available in the area. We managed to find boat. Then just cross finger and hope for the best. Everything's going to turn properly.
A good crew, good people.
Yeah, and everything turned really well.
How do you think it went?
It went really well. It was great. It was a great experience. Nobody get hurt. Nobody get sick. Nobody. Everybody got plenty of dives.
I think we did about 100 dives collectively between the 6 team members.
Yeah, and which is quite a lot. And we managed to explore many different habitats. And that was very interesting for me.
You know, going kind of back to the part where dive operators won't take touristic dive seekers to certain areas, especially like the turbid environments. One of the most interesting places we dove actually suffers some dynamite blasting. That was really, it's really depressing and disheartening. But then on the same note, we went a little bit further. And it was untouched, and it was crazy corals, and I'm not sure. Yeah, we saw a little bit of the 2 unknown species, which we'll get to in a minute. But then we saw derawanensis. I saw derawanensis for the first time. It was such a cool, neat coral.
The funny thing, you know, is that when we were outside the park, I thought that everything would be bombed and everything would be destroyed, and I was scared to go actually outside the park with you, and you would get so disappointed. But actually, outside the park was a little bit damaged, but not. Okay, there was not as many fish. It was a little bit damaged, but it was very nice.
Very dive.
And actually, the most damaged place we saw was right in the middle of the park. This is what is very scary.
Yeah, it's kind of strange that you could go to the middle of the Komodo Park, and that's where we saw a little bit of like clear-cut blasting, just reefs that had been pummeled.
But we also saw the most beautiful coral reef, you know, just next to it.
Yeah.
And yeah, but for me, the most interesting dive was the one where we found the Acropora.
So I just want to set the story here a little bit. We were boating along, and I mean the whole point of this dive, the We Will See Flores expedition, was to dive unexplored areas, and we've kind of hit on that. But what was really cool was we were in control of the boat. We weren't actually controlling the boat, but at some point, you and I were just on the top of the deck, and we're kind of looking out, and we just saw this area, and we both just kind of clicked and said, "Hey, that looks like a cool spot to dive." And then what do we find?
Well, we found plenty of trichilias, we find plenty of cantiphilias, we find some Anacropora, we find cycloceres, insane cycloceres.
We found a beautiful reef slope with Acanthophilia, Trichophilia, Cinerina, elegance coral, fields of gonies, colorful disc corals, including the reddest ones I've ever seen, Heterosamia and Heterocyathus, these walking little single polyps.
So many things.
Diceras, there's little dicera slices, and you didn't see them because they were in between the xenia. There was a lot of xenia there, but if you look closer,
there was too much to see on the front side.
There wasn't much, but for me, yeah, you're right. That was one of the ones that's not. The whole thing's not exactly photogenic because it's just a long reef slope, but that's where we saw like a real biotopic habitat.
And there is probably also 2 species of soft coral that which are very colorful. One purple one, one yellow one, which I've never seen.
It was kind of like Anthelia.
Yeah.
A little bit more encrusting.
Very short,
yeah, short tentacles, encrusting. One was purple with white polyps, and the other one had like a nice yellow base, yellow tentacle stalk. That was really beautiful. One thing that's really cool about that habitat is it's got the gonies in it and some other things, but especially just lots and lots of Anacropora representation. And Vincent Chalias from Triton Reef was there. Specifically, he came on a trip to take water samples of the biotopes. And so as we speak, we just got a call from him not too long ago, he's firing up his ICP machine to get elemental level testing of what the water was like in that habitat. So not only will we be able to recreate the assemblage of corals and the slope, but also the chemistry. That's going to be really, really awesome, really rewarding.
That's going to be insane, because it's just a small part of the testing, Okay, he managed to get samples in the middle of Anacropora field, but he might also manage to find samples, where all the Acropora were green, where all the Acropora were red.
Tons of water sampling, and we'll be getting the results all summer long. That's some really exciting stuff to look forward to.
Yeah.
So let's talk about these 2 new acros. We found 2 acros. Him and I, we love our Acropora. I got to see suharsonoi in the wild. Tons of deep water. I see elegans. No, I didn't see Pichonai. Elegans, simplex, granulosa, locani. It's all these things. Carduus. Echinata speciosa. I finally got to see some speciosa in the wild. Derawanensis was a juicy, just super neat. Very thin branched, but super hard.
Super strong. We could not break it off.
Yeah, we took a couple samples for genetic analysis to be sent back to London. But we saw 2 other corals that we can't put our finger on. And I'm taking propriety of one, and he's taking propriety of the other. We just call them the unknown 1 and unknown 2, affectionately Adam's eye and Chalias eye. So the coral that I saw, it was just a really weird mix of like a branching coral and a deep water coral that had these branchlets at 90-degree angles. But the branchlets were smooth, and they weren't branchlets, they were just like long coralites. It was just super weird, and the colony grew in a sort of a bottle brush shape, but with like a deep water motif.
That would be bottle brush suharsonoi.
Bottle brush suharsonoi would be a good way to describe it.
And the other one would be deep water suharsonoi. Branching suharsonoi.
It was like a confused derawanensis. So the coral, the other coral, we actually found it on a night dive first. Remember that? We parked there, and the next day it was like, holy crap, man, I can't wait to see that coral in the daylight. It was like, I don't know, cross between a simplex and a suharsonoi that was extremely loose branching. And it's kind of like a derawanensis, but much fewer coralites on the edges and long tapering branches.
Yeah.
And if we'd found only 1 colony of each, that'd be one thing, a supposed hybrid. But we saw...
We kept on seeing them,
Yeah, we saw those 2 corals in very specific habitats over and over and over and over. And they looked a certain way. And they were consistent. That's what it was. They were consistent. Yeah. Unknown 1 and unknown 2.
We saw it in very turbid water, and we saw them in very clear water, and they just looked exactly the same.
Yeah, yeah. And what was cool is we saw derawanensis and simplex and suharsonoi in the same habitat, so there was no confusion about is this this species growing in a different form. Very cool. that was very, very fun, very rewarding, and we look forward to revisiting those two species. So, so that was a really cool trip. Where do you want to go next? We got a big map of Indonesia, lots of potential dive sites.
Well, there is plenty of places to go, you know, that's for sure. We have to go east, you know. After there is an easy place to go, and then there is a more challenging place to go, you know. I mean, a place where we could find a lot of things would be probably here, Halmahera.
Halmahera, yeah.
That's my #1 priority, because it got the influence from the Pacific. And it's right between Papua and Tomini Bay, which is the highest diversity of Acropora in the world.
Right.
So it's right in between, you know. So we should find a huge diversity of corals, and at the same time, two different populations of Acropora, on the east side and on the west side.
Facing the Pacific and facing Indo-Pacific.
So actually, I think we will need to go twice there. You know, once to explore this area, one to explore this area.
And that's a huge area.
That's huge.
Okay, face the camera now.
Another area would be Sulawesi Bay, where many new species have been.
Yeah, there's been a lot of corals. That's where some of the more recent Astreopora, Acroporina is one I just gotta see. I gotta see that coral in the wild. That's a really, really cool one. So, but you know, at the very least, I think it's safe to say we'll probably aim to do the Flores Sea expedition, maybe either sometime this year, sometime same time next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We try to. It's a different season, you know. So there is so many places to see here, you know, in Indonesia. You know, so many places to explore. You know,
With some experience under our belt and a good team and some good non-painful lessons, I think we can do this expedition again.
Yeah. The goal of the first one was to make it without any
incidents.
No
incidents, no accidents, no lost divers, no injuries.
So now we have experience, or to get a boat, what to do on the boat, So I think to organize the next one is going to be much easier.
Yeah, you know, and I just want to point out, like, we're not trying to put ourselves on the same level as like scientific expeditions. We're very much aquaristic expeditions, and you know, when divers go out, they really like to see the macro stuff, like the big fish, jacks, sharks, mantas, mola, or the micro stuff. You have in the muck dives, the nudibranchs, the anglerfish, the frogfish, the ghost pipefish. But in the intermediate space, there's just not a lot of attention. There's very few people that go diving. Let's go find coral. Let's go find coral. And that's kind of what we're about.
Our dive guide almost shot himself. He was getting so bored during the dives.
Yeah, he was just kind of like, oh, I don't know what to do. But yeah, so yeah, I look forward to doing this again. So
yeah,
man, it was a sincere pleasure to do this with you. Thanks for sitting down for the interview.
It was great.
And just want to tell everybody that Vincent will be joining MACNA to give a presentation on the Fluvial Sea Flores expedition, and he'll be talking about the biotopes and the habitats that we all saw on this expedition, and should be a great presentation.
Yep.
So
I'll do that.
Catch you guys next time.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.